Hello. Yes, back with yet another video out in front of the wagon, our 81 GL. So, I've gotten almost everything around, done a whole bunch of stuff here and there as we go through, and we change out pretty much everything that is assist into manual, except for cruise control and AC. Those few things will stay. But automatic transmission, getting converted to manual. The power steering rack, that's already converted to manual. It's just sitting there. I have to work on removing the one transmission mount, and then I will mount the new manual rack. So, all right, you are here to see how you convert a automatic car into a manual. Now, there's really no limitations here. The biggest thing is you need to be swapping from correct gears. When you're doing this, there's the 81 to 83 transmission mounts and front knuckles and engine mounts, and then there's the 84 to 90 set. Okay, you don't want to mix up those two groups. You can mix up those two groups if you're going to, say, swap over all of the suspension from early to late or late to early. But by that I mean also axles. Yeah, you'll have to fab up custom transmission mounts, yada yada yada. So you can use all of one or you can use all of the other. You won't be able to pick the best of both worlds because there isn't any. Just pick all of one or pick all of the other. So in our 81 Escort, we are throwing in a 1982 transmission. I have a 84 here next to it. Coincidentally, this one is a 4-speed, so it could technically swap over without, any hiccups really. But we're not going to do that because this guy, it's the tallest 4-speed they ever made in these cars. Crazy tall. And I'm not interested in that in a wagon, which is already heavier than the standard car. So we are opting for the normal final drive. This is, I think, the 3.59, something like that. So that's what's going in the car instead. So how do we go about doing it? All right, well, here's everything you need to change out. It's all right here in front of me. The transmissions themselves, the mounts, the pedals assemblies, the clutch and shift linkage versus the automatic shift linkage, kick down lever. We'll try to cover all of it. I do have literally all of it right here in front of me. It's just a matter of me remembering it all. So, the only thing I don't have in front of me is a clutch kit. I do. Here we go. And there it is. So boom, done. Easy peasy. So I do have everything right here in front of us. So why would you want to be swapping this over? Well, you will have 4 or 5 gears if you're putting in a 5-speed instead of the 3 that the automatic came in. And you'll be able to control the shift points all the time, every time, which is something you can only kind of do in the automatic. Like you can click up between 1, 2, and 3, but there are limitations to that. And third gear, while we're speaking of things, gearing is the next big difference or benefit, depending on how you're looking at this stuff. So, like I said, there's 3 gears in the automatic. The first one is actually kind of tall. And then third gear, top gear, that's only 1-to-1. And as such, it's quite the screamer. We put in this 4-speed. Our top gear is going to be about 500 RPMs less than this one at 55 miles an hour, or around 60 miles an hour. Somewhere in there will be 500 RPMs less, thereabouts, And then on top of all of that, the automatic is also more prone to leaks and stuff because it does have lines that come out of this, and they go, right now I have them just looped together, but they do go to hard lines, and they go to two ports on the radiator where the already warm coolant, believe it or not, helps cool the ATF fluid. Once that's up to temperature, the coolant actually starts cooling it. So there's that too. And then the final reason to change it is weight. From weight alone, you will witness performance gains. Like, for real here. Figured out that the automatic and all of its stuff versus the manual and all of its stuff, there's somewhere around a 60-ish pound difference. There's a bunch. Oh, and then from physical size, maintenance is a heck of a lot easier. The problem with the automatic is it takes up all this space behind the engine. You can barely see the white oil filter hiding in there, in that sea of black hoses and silver linkage. But when we put in the manual and we remove all the emissions and then reroute all of our coolant lines, you can access your oil filter right through here like a champ. Otherwise, that's about it. The shift changes in the automatic are actually decent. They're better than what I've witnessed in a lot of 90s Fords. I have no complaints about its general performance. It's its limitations of gear sets that are the real beef, followed by its physical size and all of its potential for leaks. Those couple things are the real killer there. And then when you also get to a cruising speed and you're like, geez, this is just terribly loud. This feels so wasteful. And yeah, you will save a little bit of fuel switching to the manual, regardless of how where you're driving. It doesn't matter if you drive only in town or only out on the highway. You will see gains with the manual. So, what all is involved? Well, assuming you're using the correct years, it's a straight swap. So, like I said, this video is going to be focused on 81 to 83. I will make another video when we swap out an 84 to 90. I actually have a 1988 and a half automatic example for us to video off of. And we'll use that as the demo piece. But for now, we're sticking with these 81 to 83, mostly because the motor mounts are the same. That's about it. So, what do you need for the swap? Well, let's just assume you're going from automatic to manual. Not very many people are going to be going from manual to automatic. I personally don't recommend it. Some people really want that. You're entitled to it. So how it works, so you have to remove the engine and transmission together with the automatic. There is no practical way of separating them inside the engine bay. I've done that twice now, and it has barely worked both times. When you do it, you have to be content with messing up your passenger frame rail pretty much, and then damaging who knows what on the engine coming out, and your torque converter. Okay, so do keep that in mind. It's best to keep these as a combined unit. If you want, you can remove the head. That will help. It's a whole lot less weight and a whole lot less stuff in the way for you to access everything else, especially when you have accessories on the back, like spot pump, the power steering pump, and on the front, AC compressor, and then off to the side, the cruise control. All that stuff adds up pretty quick when you're trying to get your hands in tight places. Or literally any place. The back end of these just get absurd. So, what we need to go from automatic to manual. We need our manual transmission with both of its mount hangers. That's extremely important. You will not be putting this transmission in without those two hangers. You also need the front mount The rear mount is the same as the automatics. You can reuse that if you want, but if you are able to get it out, definitely get it out. When when they're left in there too long, they will rust to the bolt that hangs them, and then you never get them out. So I have to go in there with some cutting tools and really mess that sucker up just to get it out, change it. So I gotta decide how I want to do that and when I want to do that. Gotta decide if that's a now project or a later project. Luckily, since the manual's going in, we'll have a lot of room to work on that. So next, I've mentioned everything about the transmission. We also need a clutch cable. We also need to make sure we have a nice new throwout bearing. The flex, or I say flex plate, the separator plate between the manual and automatic is the same. We will also need the shift linkage. Also need your shift boot and shift knob. It is missing from this one, so I will have to improvise. Because I'm short. I don't have extra boots and knobs, and I really need them. You also need the brake pedal assemblies. Yes, the brake pedals themselves are different. If you want, yes, you could reuse all the mounting bracketry from your automatic. That's easier just to take straight from the manual car, because you have to add on a bunch of stuff to the left for your clutch pedal. You also have to change out the brake pedal, because it can no longer be the wide thing where you're going to hit it when you don't mean to be. Then you will also, of course, need your clutch and flywheel, because the automatic uses a flex plate. The manuals do not. For the manuals, you have to change out the flex plate with the flywheel and then bolt in your clutch assembly that goes in the car, and you keep going, bing, bang, boom. Pretty easy peasy. That's about all there is required parts-wise. I almost forgot. On the automatics, there is a unique connector for the gear position switch. You will need to change that out to a 2-pin unit for your manual transmission. And it's solely for the reverse switch. That's all it's for. So do keep that in mind. You will need that. And where the automatic one was on the car, this guy right here, you will have to cut that off. Go ahead, put it with your transmission. You won't be needing it again, but someone with your tranny might. And then you'll solder, well, basically splice in a pair of wires going to just the reverse wires of the circuit. And then that's basically it. So what's the process for it? Well, once you have the automatic out, you then have to go and almost forgot again. The automatic axles are different. I believe, pretty sure it's I think it was the driver's side that's different. But honestly, if you're taken from a car, you're going to have both halves. Okay, there it is. Alright, so it appears the short side is what's different. I could certainly be wrong. So that looks the same as the long one I've taken out from my manuals. The short one, I have yet to get the short side out of the automatic. I have not been successful in that. The long side comes out with ease. That one seems to be identical between each of the cars. So do keep that in mind. Alright, so now we can get back to how to do the swap. So once you've got it out, you have a nice clean engine bay. You will need to prep your new manual transmission with new rubber mounts. You'll need one on the front, one in the back, and that's it for mounts. You'll also put in your new throwout bearing, and you need to lubricate it, okay? This one is extremely dry, and you can not only see it, but you can feel it jam up. It goes in, no problem, but it resists coming back out. It won't come back out without pressure. So before this goes in the car, I need to oil the outside of this sleeve here, okay? Not necessarily the spinning shaft, but this solid sleeve. I need to lubricate that well. Also lubricate the pivot points of the throwout bearing, or throwout bearings arm pivot. And then check it over, make sure that all your mounts are tight and you don't have any apparent leaks or any other flaws or concerns. Then, this guy's actually ready to go in. I recommend putting in the transmission and then pressing your 2 CV axles into it. After you do that, you're welcome to thread in your speedometer cable. It just goes right in. The gearing for each of these is inside the transmission, not in the gauges, so they're more or less universal swap-ins. Next, you'll work on the shift linkage. Shift linkage is the biggest difference between these guys. There's a big old hole in the car, as you can see there, obviously. And it just, you know, the automatic one, it goes in from the top. It bolts down into the car, so you'll remove it from inside the car. The manual one, it will go up into the car from underneath. Okay? Do keep that in mind. That is a very big major difference. The manual shift linkage will come up into it through the floor from underneath. And then basically before you bolt it down, while you're getting things kind of situated, you will then bolt this into the transmission. The transmission itself will have the bolt for the reference arm, or the positioning arm, however you want to call that. It sets the distance between the transmission itself and the rest of the shifter. And then you'll have the shifting lever, and that just bolts into the transmission. Very simple. And then at that point, you put your flywheel and clutch on the crankshaft of the engine. You join your engine to this, because while these two had to be joined to get in and out of the car, with the manuals, the transmission can go in and the engine can then go in. But these have to stay separated because the torque converter is so dang big. That's the reason behind that. And then one of the final things you do, or if you want, you can do it like first before everything else, simply change out your pedal assemblies. I'm in the middle of doing this video. I was doing these first and I thought, oh, no, people want to see all of the stuff laid out. So here we are. I've got all the pieces laid side by side. Clutch cable's routed. Once you're all done, one thing to keep in mind, if you do have cruise control, you will need to swap over some of the hardware. So that way you have cruise on your manual transmission now. So that's something I have to do. So I did. I swapped all of it over. The only parts that are for the cruise that are missing from the view right here are still in the car. It's just a switch, so I still have it dangling from the wire. And that's more or less it. One thing to keep in mind is when you're changing out the transmissions, you will have to remove the axles. Removing the axles can be quite a chore, and that's okay. It takes whatever it takes. You just need to be aware that it's going to take some time. It won't be easy peasy even if you did just do it yesterday. They always seem to put up some sort of fight. while you're putting in that, and before you put in the axles, it's a great time to make sure all your boots are okay and all your CV joints are cleaned out and well lubricated before you go through the effort of stuffing them back and reassembling. Also, a good time to check out all of your front suspension, whether it be your tie rod ends, your steering rack. If it's manual, grab it by the passenger inner tie rod. Shake it a bunch. If you can feel the inside rack moving around, this is the perfect time to move that boot over, get inside, and start replacing the bushing that is either broken or missing. You also check out your brakes, struts, any of your control arm related components, sway bar mounts, everything involving any of that. It's a perfect time to check that out. And then you're kind of off to the races. From there, just put the whole engine back where you found it. Nothing changes engine wise, aside from you will disconnect and disregard all of this kick down linkage for the transmission. And basically what this does is, as you input throttle demand, if this goes down far enough, it tells the transmission to, hey, knock it down a gear. So then it does. These are becoming quite sought after. So they're very prone to having their bushings fail or their clips fail, and then they disappear. They will literally fall out of the car as you're going down the road and disappear forever. So they're becoming quite hard to get a hold of. I happen to have one for every single one of my transmissions, but that won't be the case forever, I imagine. But I think that covers pretty much everything. If you're trying to do the opposite, put in an automatic where the manual was, you have to make sure that you have the automatic radiator for your transmission lines. And you also have to make sure that you have the 2 electrical connectors that you need for the whole operation. That means the one for your neutral and reverse, well, your reverse switch for your reverse lights, your neutral lockout. That way you can only start it in park and neutral. And then you will need a small pigtail, or you can patch it in by hand. That's what I would recommend. You wire in what this is, that wire there, it's just for a background light behind the letters. There'll be a little light, lights up all the letters. Now that you can just add into one of the backlight circuits in the rest of the dashboard. Pretty easy stuff. And that's all there is to it. Once you have it in, press down on the clutch a few times, then grab the bottom of the clutch pedal, lift it up once or twice, and again push it back down a couple times. That will reset this ratcheting mechanism that takes up the slack in the clutch cable. Do that a few times and you should have a quite decent operating clutch, assuming you have lubricated that sleeve like I told you to. If you don't, that can easily jam up and you can end up breaking or shearing off this bolt that holds the fork to the shaft. Then you'll have terrible clutch actuation. It won't be able to take up the slap anymore, and then you'll start burning through clutch cables on top of having terrible clutch operation. So make sure you're lubricating that very well. You don't want that to happen. The clutch should feel much like the gas pedal, okay? It shouldn't be difficult to move. But that pretty much ought to do it. I know you'd probably love to see a video of me taking this out and putting this in, or vice versa, but that is just so much work. It really is a 2-day job. Not that that consumes that many hours, but while you're doing it, you want to make sure that, one, you're not damaging anything you plan on keeping, selling, reusing, whatever. That was my deal. Everything that came out of this, didn't want to destroy it. It needs to go to a different home. And then everything that goes back in, I need to make sure it's A-OK, dependable, reliable, and checks out decent and it's clean, so that when I go to service stuff, I'm not getting as messy as I did when I was working with this whole outfit. On top of how difficult it is to film stuff like this while you're kind of busting your butt. And we've only had one, well, this was the decent day all year between today and yesterday, so it's been a non-stop effort trying to get this thing banged out and ready for winter. So I will leave it at this. It pretty much covers everything as far as this year goes. We will have a video in the future for 84 to 90, and then we will also have a video about converting your 81 to 83 into an 84-90, or vice versa. We'll try to cover both bases, because in certain events you may be forced to go from one to the other if you can't find what you're looking for. Sometimes it's just what you have to accept. But I think that's everything, so I will bid you guys adieu and hope to see you in the next video.